At OS Reviews, we're no strangers to mix and match concepts. For example, we've seen devices like projectors for cell phones, projector phones. We've seen devices like smart watches, which were a play on traditional cell phones and on traditional watches. And the Samsung Galaxy camera is a play on a traditional point-and-shoot camera and also a Galaxy-oriented. The design of the Galaxy camera itself is actually quite attractive. We have a all-aluminum finish, which is something that's a bit rare for Samsung to produce, which they typically use plastic on all their Galaxy smartphones. So it's nice to see something with a bit more solid and more of a premium fit and finish in the hand from Samsung. The side here features a rubber kind of handle for you to hold the device and to grip it comfortably, and the side features a lens. The Galaxy camera features a 16 megapixel sensor with a 21 times optical zoom that can get pretty far and close up to images and also video. You can also use a digital zoom to get even closer. The top of the device features a xenon flash that you press aside to activate manually, and it comes up higher just to prevent any shadowing from the flash and the actual lens itself, which protrudes quite a bit. The top also features a power on and off switch that's tactile and easy to press. On the left hand side, there's also a mono speaker. On the bottom, there's the standard tripod stand, and behind the battery slot, you have access to a micro SD card slot that's hot swappable, the battery itself, a SIM card slot, or a micro SIM, for you to use as a phone, also for data services such as 4G LTE, so you can actually transfer your images that you take and video that you take directly into the web. And you also have access to the battery itself, which is a standard Samsung battery. It's the same battery that you'll find on all of their Galaxy S2s, which is pretty good. It means that it's easy to replace and easy to also bring and purchase a few spares for not that much money. Unfortunately, the battery itself is actually quite small, so as a result, battery life isn't the best, but at least it's easy to purchase spare batteries, and it's pretty easy to swap them out at a low price, which is nice. The bottom, and pretty much that's it as far as the controls are concerned. The right hand edge does feature a 3.5mm jack for listening to music on the go, and there's also a port for a micro USB for charging and syncing. There's also a lanyard slot that's pre-attached, and on the very top you have access also to the zoom bar and also the two-stage camera shutter key for autofocus and then taking the image by pressing again. The back, of course, features a 4.8-inch LCD display, which is bright and vibrant and uses AMOLED, or a OLED, organic LED technology, and it's bright, saturated, and vibrant, and essentially takes the same display from the Samsung Galaxy S3 and puts it here. Otherwise, again, underneath the hood, we do have a pretty powerful device. It's a quad-core chipset, and you also have 2 GB of RAM, so performance is also quite speedy if you're looking for something to browse the web, play games, and access all those standard features that comes included. You can also pretty much find yourself around just because the icons are large, they're vibrant, they're colorful, there's a lot of animations, so that it's going to please, I guess, even expert users and first-time users, which is something that we like. The pull-down navigation drawer is the same as the S3. You have access to your Bluetooth, Gmail, your mobile data, the different driving modes, all share CAS for sharing your different screens with other people, and the only thing that's really changed here is that there's a special camera widget placed on here that you can cycle through and directly press to access different features and then apply it, and you will be directly launched into the camera. Also, instead of having a phone down here, you see that the camera icon doesn't really move, it's static, so pressing on that automatically takes you to the camera. Now, launching into the camera application is very fast. The entire transition speed only takes about a few seconds to complete. I will say that the battery life is one of the weaker departments of the Samsung Galaxy camera. After about, I would say, a dozen or so shots, the battery started to be noticeably lower than before. So if you're comparing this to a generic point-and-shoot, due to the larger screen, due to the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all those features that are going to have to be turned on, and it's going to drain the battery eventually, it's going to be a weaker aspect of this camera. Another aspect of the camera that's not as strong as we would have liked is the macro mode, which is close-up shots. So, for example, we have the device here. Let's turn that back on. And we want us to get really close to the subject. You can see that a lot of fine details are still there, but if you try to focus, it kind of depends on the lighting and the setting, but if I get kind of close to the device, it's not going to really focus that easily, whereas some other point-and-shoot cameras might be able to focus. It's just due to the lens and the nature of the aperture. But if I get kind of farther away, you can see it's pretty easy to focus, and I can always zoom in if I wanted to get really close to the subject. And in general, taking images is pretty fast. You can kind of capture a shot, and then after it focuses in a few seconds, and it does a pretty good job. The thing that I found about this particular camera is that all the images are really natural looking. So if I have a shot here that I wanted to take a look at, you can see how all the images basically are very surreal. It looks like it's exactly as it is in terms of the color reproduction and everything and the fine details. So as far as looking really realistic, the camera does a good job. The tones and the colors are natural, they aren't overexposed, it looks like what it really is in person. Now, ironically enough, the camcorder that I'm using right now makes everything look a lot more yellow than it really is. It's actually closer to this white. So the camera here on the Samsung Galaxy device does a pretty good job in terms of realistic in terms of the color. So there's a lot of different modes you can actually cycle through on the Samsung Galaxy camera. Sliding to the top gives you a row of different effects that you can apply as filters, and these are the same ones that are found on the Galaxy S3. So there's Impressionist, there's Gothic, there's Pastel, and there's Vintage, Black and White, Sepia, or No Effect. They're fun to play around with, and of course, because it's running on Android, you can easily go and download a photo editor that you can even play around with your photos even more. Taking a look at some other modes, the most unique aspect of this camera is what's called the expert mode. This is not going to apply to most day-to-day users, but if you are more advanced and you have a more greater liking for photography, then you can select the expert mode and play around with different settings that are inclusive of the the focus, the different lens for the shutter speed. You can change the aperture, you can change the sensitivity for the lighting effect, you can change the ISO setting. So all of these things, changing the color, changing the tone, it's going to be great for people who want to have a high degree of customization on their devices, but most folks will be fine with just the automatic mode, which does a pretty good job. To get more selections and more modes on here, we can press on the picture here, and we can select on the Smart, which tends to be, it's going to give you a few more options for taking images. You can select through the beauty face, which basically removes any pimples or any wrinkles on your face, makes it beautiful. Best photo, captures 3 images, chooses the best one. There's a continuous shot, best face, landscape modes, food modes, macro mode, which is still a little bit weak, like we pointed out. There are modes for dawn, for action, rich tone. Some unique ones on here include silhouette, which can produce some pretty cool shots, also fireworks, night, and light trace. Now, low light performance on this camera is surprisingly good. When you try to capture some night scenes, we found that it was fairly accurate, although you did have to hold the camera pretty still, otherwise colors did tend to blur. Same thing can be said about fireworks. The fireworks actually did show up, which is pretty impressive, and the colors were fairly realistic as well. Light trace is kind of interesting. It basically captures the light. It's kind of what you see on news channels. It captures the light of the different cars as they drive by, and it produces a pretty realistic and kind of futuristic photographic effect if you're interested in that. On the top over here, there's a few more settings that you can toggle through directly. They correlate to the microphone on and off for voice recording, perhaps for voice memos, and also for capturing a picture with a sound. Of course, also for video settings. And you also have a flash setting here, a automatic timer setting, and there's also some different settings for your camera and your camcorder settings. So if we press on top here, which releases a flash, you can see that the flash has automatically been turned. It's right now saying that it's off, but it gives you the indication and the ability to tap on it to change that to automatic or change it to off again. So it's something that you can go and then set, which is pretty good. And the mode is pretty fast and easy to recognize for that. Overall, I'd say that as a camera, the Samsung Galaxy camera certainly doesn't really disappoint. It does a good job of capturing day-to-day general usages and day-to-day general images. Even if you're kind of far away from your shots, it does a pretty good job of capturing details. You can pinch to zoom pretty easily into your shots. Even though it's 16 megapixels, it does a good job. It doesn't really stutter. The processor is fast enough. You can also use the zoom key or the zoom bar here to zoom into your pictures even more smoothly. So this is pretty much a nice indication of what you can get in terms of these zooming capabilities. You can see that fine details are not really lost, which is always good, and even if you zoom in, you can get pretty far into your subjects and your images. This is basically with, I think, 10 times optical zoom, and it still looks pretty good. We're quite far away from the mountains here, so it looks like a pretty good shot in general. And so overall, I would say that the camera performance is pretty impressive. Colors are realistic, they're vibrant, and even after you upload them into a computer, they are pretty good. So as a point and shoot, it doesn't disappoint, which is good. It's not the most advanced point and shoot on the market. Sometimes the focusing might take a bit longer than I'd like, and also the battery life is a bit shorter. But if you do like a lot of filters, you like a lot of customization, you like playing around and then uploading your images to Dropbox to your friends directly, this is a good option to get because you do have Wi-Fi, you do have 4G on board, which is really helpful. Some other features on here, there are a few other photo wizards that have been downloaded already, and also Play Store. You can see how there are no Android hotkeys, and they are instead being placed on the side as soft keys. They correlate to the menu, the home, and also the back. You do have live wallpapers that you can select, so I can set a wallpaper perhaps on the home screen, and from the live wallpapers that are already on here, they are pretty colorful, and you can select from them if you want to do that. It's going to drain the battery a little bit faster, so it's not really recommended. The apps include some other applications. Some are unique to Verizon, such as Message Plus. Some are pretty generic, including voice search. There's YouTube, which works pretty well. A setup wizard, there is Paper Artist on board, my Verizon account. Samsung has included their S Voice, which is basically their answer to Siri. It works actually pretty well. You can ask it questions like, what's the weather today? Or email somebody, or call somebody, and it actually will work and recognizes it pretty well. There's also S Memo on board, which we can take a look at and just kind of show you the basic abilities of the keyboard. It has a 4.8-inch screen, which is actually pretty good. Now the screen here is a 720p HD screen, so resolution-wise, it's not the clearest, but it still is fairly vibrant, and we certainly didn't have any issues in terms of viewing angles or outdoor performance, which is also good. So you can see that I can actually write on it. It's pretty fast. For doodling, I can add a text message, and the keyboard here, again, is pretty spacious and comfortable for typing, just because it's large and easy to kind of hold just because of the camera natural orientation here. So it's pretty comfortable. You can also turn it onto the side, which gets a little bit more awkward, but still pretty wide and easy to text on. So the keyboard isn't bad at all. If you want to do some typing, some emailing, and some messaging with friends, it isn't that bad. The accelerometer here, you can see, is also a 4-axis accelerometer, so it works all the way around for games and also for other applications. Google Chrome is pre-installed. There's also a Samsung version of the music player, which has been customized to be a bit more vibrant. Google Maps, Play Store, Google Books, there's Dropbox on here, of course, email, Chrome, clock, calendar, group play, and that's pretty much it. So everything else you can basically populate and customize. As far as video recording goes, it's also pretty strong. You can get up to 1080p HD resolution for capturing videos, and the microphone on top does a pretty good job of capturing your voice and your sound. With that being said, it isn't a noise cancellating microphone, so some background noises will still remain in your videos. There's also not a huge amount of customization in terms of image stabilization, so sometimes it can also get a little bit weak. There is a proximity sensor or an ambient light sensor, as you can see there, and overall video performance is good, but it's not the best, but it does have automatic focusing, which is good. And there's also slow-mo recording and time-lapse recording, which I have a Samsung Galaxy S3 behind the back covers, which is the international unlocked version with the quad-core chipset. It actually is a very powerful performer in terms of web browsing and day-to-day usage as well. So you can basically browse through web pages with pretty much a lot of ease. Text and everything looks pretty sharp. You can browse and check out more complex pages as well. And as you can see here, our Wi-Fi reception is pretty low, but we still have a pretty complex page going. And there's not use the Samsung Galaxy camera to browse the web and also to watch YouTube videos. We're taking a look at some of our videos here on OS Reviews. And you can see how the interface is pretty smooth. It's lucid. You can check out your different playlists, your different videos, and then view it on the screen, which again, because it's AMOLED or AMOLED, it has very rich colors and tones as well to the deepness of the color. So we are excited about that. You can also check your email. There's notifications and push notifications as well. So it's a pretty good job overall as far as being a smart device. You can basically use it kind of like an iPod, but also with the camera, of course, on the back. So taking a last look at basically the device and how it runs some basic games, we have a Tank Hero game here. It's a pretty graphically demanding game, but this should give you guys an idea of how the processor is able to handle multitasking. So let's try playing the game here. There is a speaker on board here, so it's a little bit on the weaker side of the spectrum, but it does work. It's on the side. I can turn up the volume like so using the top here. You can see the volume is just on the side. It's a mono speaker, but it does a pretty good job. It's pretty sensitive, it's easy to use, and overall it's not a bad gaming experience either, so it does a pretty good job as far as playing that game. We're actually pleased with the performance and the general usability of the Samsung Galaxy camera. There's a few caveats. You can't use it for video chatting applications, but as far as taking shots and taking general images, it actually is a very capable point and shoot with some pretty high-end features. We really like the expert mode and the ability for you to select from different filters, and also the addition of wireless functions like Wi-Fi and 4G are also really handy because you can directly take your images and upload them to different social networks that you currently have. The build quality of the Samsung Galaxy camera is also top-notch. It's made out of aluminum and also rubber, so it's a lot higher end than most of Samsung's other devices, and performance as a Samsung Android device is not shabby either. The performance in terms of the graphic interface, the UI, the GPU, and also the processor is not bad at all, and makes it a pretty cool experience for browsing the web, for playing back games, for playing back videos, and doing your general productivity apps. So it's a good device all in all. Is it a must-have device? I would say that the kind of mix between a regular point and shoot and a Android device right now is still under development, because you currently, a lot of people have smartphones and they might still have a point and shoot, so it's absolutely necessary to combine the two into something like this. This is something that we're going to have to see as companies go forward and how they try to answer this question. At the moment, I would say that perhaps wait until the next generation model of the Samsung Galaxy Cam comes out, just to see if some of these kind of issues are going to be resolved in the future, just because, again, the form factor is quite large, so it's going to be not the most portable device in the world. With that being said, if you are an early adopter, you like technology, I think that the Samsung Galaxy camera is actually something that's going to please you in terms of performance, and it's going to please a lot of average consumers out there looking for a quality point and shoot with some extra features thrown in. You can check out our full review on our website. Thanks for watching this video review here at OS Reviews. This has been a first look at the Samsung Galaxy camera.